the Hello folks, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone is well and safe, and thanks for your support on my last video as always. And today I'm going to talk about more about my experience actually, so pretty much on the topics of the maintenance. I think there has been a lot of questions around how much time do I actually invest in these particular setups, and how do I actually do it, and what's the need for all these particular automation. So before I begin, I would humbly request you all to have a look at my two specific videos on my posting so far. So one is about a recent automation that I did for pumping water to my tank, especially to assist in my water changes. And second video that I did was more about a preview of all my fish tanks. I would highly recommend watching those two videos first before watching this, otherwise you will not be able to connect the dots. So let's get rolling. All my tanks are kind of automated using these particular timers, so these will operate the lights. They'll switch it on and switch it off as per the times that I have programmed into them. We can be more creative with these. I mean, I can even hook up the humidifiers to these, or set up the air pumps in such a way that they work during only night time, something like that. So definitely a must-have gadget. And I also have auto feeders for all my tanks, and these take care of feeding the fishes. By default they are supposed to feed once a day, and I also do manual feeding on myself, so basically my tanks are getting fed twice a day. But when I'm traveling or if I'm not at home, then they will stick to their once a day routine. So as a weekly or a bi-weekly maintenance, all I have to do is focus on overgrown plants. Some plants grow really fast and they need to be kept in control, so I tend to focus on removing them quite regularly. And then there are these type of algae that kind of grow within the plants, and sometimes I just let them grow and then remove it once they are quite big, because it's easy to remove like that. And since I have live bearers in the tank, I got to occasionally keep a lookout for fries in the tank, and since I am keeping a separate tub for them, so I grow the fries in this particular tub setup. And this is also because in future, which as per now I only have tetras in the tank, I have moved all the live bearers to the tub setup. And I also make sure that I remove a little bit of water. Usually I use this particular siphon to siphon the water out, just a very little bit, just to help to maintain the system. And then since I'm using a hang-on filter, the inlet valve actually is protected by this particular sponge filter, which usually gets clogged up by plant matter or any kind of debris. So I tend to focus this on a bi-weekly basis, just to make sure that this is quite clean. And then I will use an algae scraper to clean off the glass. So this will prevent any algae from growing on the glass and helps to maintain the neat looks of the tank. That is it. That's all I do on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. And you need to understand that what I have just told you is something that I do quite regularly, so which is why I am able to maintain these particular tanks. So there are two factors in this equation. One is the aesthetic look, the other one is the well-being of all the life inside this particular tank. Remember, I'm not just simply having aquariums, so these are mini small ecosystems and there is life in it. So it's not really advisable to make big drastic changes, such as massive water changes or complete substrate change or whatsoever. It is best to stick to a very minimal maintenance routine like this, and sticking to that for a longer duration. So with time you'll see that the tanks are a lot more easily maintained, and occasionally you will always have one-off subjects. For example, in this particular tank, there was an incident of excess algae growing on it, and I had to spend a little bit more time on it. Incidents like this are going to be handled more on a reactive basis, and this will also include situations where you find a dead fish inside, or a hang-on filter that has clogged up and it's not really working. There's quite a lot of these kind of situations that can arise, so it's best to be a little bit more reactive. For this tank I'll have to spend some time on scrubbing, And usually what I do is I use the siphon to act as the main filter to remove all the algae. I'll show you how. And the thing with algae is that if it's bigger, if it has grown really bigger, it's much more easier to remove than small tiny little particles all over the tank. So it's best to wait for some time, let all the algae grow, and then use this particular siphon to take all of them out. So the important point to note here is that aesthetics is something that I can sacrifice to a certain extent, and whenever necessary I can always bring it back if I lose it. But if I lose the ecosystem's balance, it's very hard to bring it back, and that's going to be more disastrous. So when it comes to the question of how long can this tank be left on its own without maintenance, I think the answer actually goes to the point when the tank loses its balance on the ecosystem. That's going to be the critical point, so you should never really go there. So all my processes, all my regular maintenance are all focused on this. So if I do continuously stick to my standard weekly bi-weekly maintenance, I don't really need to do any deep cleaning at all. It runs on its own, so it's all good. But there are also times where I'll have to travel, so this is the time when I can't really commit to the regular maintenance. At that time I will have to be prepared that once I come back from my travel, I have a lot of work to do in bringing the tank up. So during this particular time I will let go of the aesthetics, and I'll mainly focus on creating all processes that's going to simply support the maintenance of the ecosystem there. As an example, here's a video of what my tanks were like when I came back after an overseas trip. I think I was away for almost 1.5 months, and the tanks were all on their own, and this is how they were. Let me just show it to you all in real-time audio. That sound is actually a hang-on filter that has got its inlet blocked, and you can see that the water levels have significantly dropped, but the fishes are all right. It's just that the water levels have actually dropped, and of course there's excessive growth of plants. As you can see, it's not really that appealing. Especially the main tank has done quite a bit, done very well. The fishes were all okay except the plants. Some of the plants are all very overgrown. With this tank, everything was okay except there was one fish in the corner that was not going to make it, and the rest of the fishes were kind of fine. And with the beta tank, I couldn't really find the beta. Sadly, it passed away. It actually got stuck in between the heater, so I don't know whether it was trying to hide or how it got there, but I found him dead in between the heater. The tub setup was kind of okay, except the water levels were very bad with the tub, but the fishes were completely fine, and there was an excessive growth of algae there. So things like this are meant to happen, and we got to be prepared. So next time when I go on an overseas trip, I have come up with some new precautions, one of which is actually finding a way to top up the water quite regularly. And the next time, of course, I can't really afford to make the same mistake, and let's say by any chance if my trip was postponed a little bit further, the tank would have really gone to that stage of losing its balance. So I did come and save the tank at the right time. The only thing that needs to be done is obviously topping up the water that's lost due to natural evaporation, and that's why I have introduced the water top-up systems. And with this, of course, I can set up a bucket in my sink, fill it with water, put the timer in, and that can actually pump the water respectively as per the program timings and the day. I've also bought a small camera which I'm going to be using whilst I'm traveling to monitor all the tanks, and in case if I detect anything that's majorly wrong, at least I can ask my friend to come and have a look. So this is where automation comes into the picture, or the need for automation really is required. We are doing this as hobbies, and this is not our full-time job, so it's best for us to reduce the time required to spend on these kind of maintenance as minimal as possible. So as I said, if you have a discipline of doing regular maintenance, then it's not going to really cost that much in regards to time and effort. And let's say if it comes to a situation of an overseas trip, you can't really attend the tanks, then automation is going to be your best friend. And still there are a lot of possibilities for things to go wrong, but ultimately it needs to be a situation where the aquarium doesn't lose its balance in its ecosystem. So as long as we have self-sustainable tanks that have a well-balanced ecosystem, they have the capacity to stay stable for really longer periods of time. In my case, all I need to make sure is that there is regular inflow of water, and the rest of the things are quite manageable. But of course, that being said, there's always rooms for things to go wrong, which is a factor that you'll have to take into the equation no matter what plans we make. So I have covered most of the key topics that I wanted to share with you all, so feel free to comment and share your feedback. So see you all in my next video. Till then, stay safe, take care, cheers guys.